Hello and welcome to another manga spotlight. Today's series, My Daughter Was an Unsold Enslaved Elf by Haruka Toku and Sawamura Akira. So this is based off of a light novel series. It is a fantasy series, but not an isekai, surprisingly. It's pretty hard to find a fantasy medieval manga series that's not isekai, but this is not. Basic premise. A magician named Weiss lives as he pleases in Zenith, a town filled with scoundrels, where he comes across an elven girl being sold as a slave. Weiss realizes that this girl, dressed in ragged clothing, is a high elf, a rare species that was supposed to have gone extinct, so he buys her and decides to raise her as his daughter. This is a warm and fluffy fantasy featuring the rookie dad Weiss and his cute little elven daughter. So we start off this series in the city of villains, Zenith. It's a city off the map, closest thing to hell on earth, the place where there is no law. Basically, survival of the fittest. Everyone here is a scoundrel. Everyone here is like a thief, a prostitute, a druggie, an alcoholic. It's just where all the worst of the worst go. And Weiss is a magician who everyone in the town kind of respects because he's someone who is not necessarily good himself. He's not evil per se, and he's someone that goes around, and if people rub him the wrong way, he just gets rid of them. And so as he's walking through, he sees a little girl that's being sold at a slave auction, only no one wants to buy her. And he kind of stares at her for a moment and he's like, wait, her hair is aqua colored and the way her ears point up. This is a high elf. This is like impossible because high elves are subspecies of elves that are basically considered to be extinct. They're able to use all kinds of magic in the world, and no one has ever seen a high elf in recent times. There are plenty of elves, but there are no high elves. This is like a really rare find. And he asked the slave auction dude, like, hey, how's it going? Looks like you managed to sell most of your wares. He was like, yeah, a short time ago, there was a bunch of inhabitants of this mansion on the hill, and they were all killed. And there were a bunch of slaves, actually, underneath. And since the inhabitants were killed, I basically ended up taking all the slaves, and I'm selling them off. And all of them but this one has been sold. And then Weiss has like a flashback where he's talking to the store owner, and it's basically like this version of KFC. He makes deep fried chicken, and he's like the only place that can make deep fried chicken. Well, the store is the only place that can make deep fried chicken because the owner is the only one that knows the recipe. But the owner was suddenly kidnapped by the men from the hill. And Wise is like super pissed off because he freaking loves fried chicken. So he's the one that went up to the hill and destroyed all the inhabitants inside. Ended up freeing the owner, who looks exactly like Colonel Sanders. And as he was freeing Colonel Sanders, there were a bunch of, I guess, slaves underneath that he just didn't notice. And those slaves are the ones that ended up getting sold by this scumbag. And so he decides that he wants to buy this slave. And the reason why is because, again, she's a high elf. She's very, very rare. But the thing is that nobody wants her anyways. And he's like, yeah, I don't know what to do with this one. No one wants to buy her. Maybe I'll just throw her like on the street and have her fend for himself. Maybe she can become food for wild dogs. I don't know. And Weiss is like, hey, how about I buy her? So Weiss buys her, takes her to his house, and decides that he's going to raise her as his daughter. And so he's trying to come up with like a name for her. And he starts listing off a bunch of names, but she refuses to talk. And at first, she's almost kind of like a doll. Maybe it's because of the way that she was raised up, but she doesn't speak at all. She doesn't show any emotions. She just has like a blank face. She doesn't really even move. Weiss will go and pat her on the head and stuff like that. And she just kind of sits there. And eventually, the first few chapters are just him dealing with being a dad. So the first night, he lets her sleep in the bed. And the next morning, she wets the bed. So it's just him like, okay, well, I got to get new sheets. I got to get some clothing for this child because I haven't gotten any. I need to get some food for this kid because everything that I have is like basically like alcohol, which I can't give her. And so it's basically just a slice of life of this guy trying to raise this high elf who doesn't speak at all. And he has no idea about what to do, how to be a father. So he goes to this one elf. Her name is Hollow. Hollow runs a clothing store, and he basically explains the situation. Hey, about this elf, I want to raise her like a daughter, but I have no idea what little girls need. So here's a bunch of gold coins. I need you to buy clothes for a little girl. And then he's like, this statue right here, she's about this size. So try to get as much clothing as you can for someone of that stature. And so he goes home, he makes meals and things for her. And eventually she starts warming up to him. As he starts showering her with love and affection, and he doesn't like raise his voice at her, he doesn't mistreat her. She starts becoming more and more trusting of him until eventually she starts moving on her own. She starts talking, and again, she's freaking adorable. And we start learning more and more about Weiss. So Weiss was someone who grew up in a very prominent family in the capital. Like he's basically considered a noble, and he proved that he had very high levels of magical skills. And like his family adored him. They didn't mistreat him. He had friends. He had like everything. But the thing was is that he didn't really want this kind of life. Like he didn't want to be like a magician. He didn't want to just live the noble life. He wanted to just kind of do his own thing. So he ended up running away. And he thought, well, if I want to do my own thing, what better place than Zenith, the place with no laws? So he went there, and that's when he used his magical powers to kind of unofficially take over the city. Again, it's just him, like, he does what he needs to benefit himself. So, like, him taking out the nobles that were there because they stole the cook who made fried chicken. He ended up helping Hollow because these thugs were trying to, like, destroy her business. And it's like, well, I need to buy clothes as well, so I need this business to be running. So he helps her by defeating the thugs. Just stuff like that. And so as he's like talking to her and he's talking to this bartender, they basically tell him like, hey, like if you want to be a dad, there's only one secret, and that's to shower your child with love. Like the girl is currently lacking love. She's desperate in this world. Giving her the love that she lost for most of her life is what you got to do. And so he starts doing that. He starts feeding her dessert. He starts bathing her. He starts showering her with praise, like every time she does something right. So he like shows her how to use a spoon. She uses a spoon to scoop up food, eats it, and then he's like, well done, like incredible, you did really great. And he like reads to her every night. So basically he's just treating her like how any parent should be treating their kid. And again, eventually she warms up to him. She starts showing emotions. She starts acting on her own. There's one morning where he is making breakfast and she actually gets up on her own without him having to go get her up. She sits down and she is able to eat herself, and he gets super excited about that. And he starts basically bragging about it to his friends. And it turns out that first, when he just wanted to buy her because she was rare, he's now starting to develop parental feelings for her and actually starting to see her as his daughter. And he actually grows to love this kid. And in return, the kid starts growing to love him and starts calling him dad. And eventually he decides to name the kid Lily, because there's one moment where she goes to the store with him and she sees a book of animals and she buys it. And the name of the author of the book is Lily. And she reads the name Lily. And he's like, wow, like that's going to be your name from now on. And then the story goes to him realizing, you know what? I can't raise my kid in this city filled with thieves and thugs and stuff. I have to go back home. I have to go back to the city I was raised in. I have to go back to where my family's at. And I got to give her a good life. I got to hide the fact that she's a high elf, have her be a normal elf, or at least make everyone believe she's nothing but a normal elf, so that she can grow up with a normal life, make friends, go to school, and then live the kind of life that she wants to live. So when at first he buys her to benefit himself, he's now changing his life to benefit her. And it's just like this sweet, fluffy story of this father raising his elven daughter. And for anyone asking, I do not think it's going to go the Usagi drop route. There is no hint at that whatsoever. In fact, there are actual hints that there are other characters that have fallen in love with Weiss. The Hollow character, at first, there were probably hints that she could have been like a possible mother figure, but turns out that that doesn't go anywhere, at least not for now, because he ends up leaving the city. And when he goes back to his regular city, he meets an old childhood friend who is like the number one mage in the city. and has a very powerful position. And it turns out that she has feelings for Weiss that he is unaware of. And she is basically trying to do whatever she can to become Lily's mother figure. So when Weiss has to go out on adventures, she wants to babysit Lily. She's trying to do whatever she can to look good in front of Lily so that Lily will want to see her as a mother, so that Weiss will see her as wife material. So it looks like that's the route that they're going to be going. Thank God, because there have been plenty of stories that I've read where it's like, oh, this dad raises this kid. That's awesome. Like, you know, I love like these little sweet slice of life little stories. And then it starts going the route where the daughter starts developing romantic feelings for the dad, and then the author decides to take it in that direction. And I'm just like, no, please don't do that. I don't want that, because then it feels like he's basically grooming his wife. That's weird. That's very, very weird. But we don't seem to get any hint of that here whatsoever. It seems like he really just sees her as his daughter. He refers to her as his daughter. There's no hint of any kind of romantic thing whatsoever. Thank God. She sees him as her dad. The two love each other in that parent and child sort of way. And it seems like he actually has a possible romantic situation with his childhood friend. There's like more. I don't want to like be spoiling all this stuff. This is awesome. Like I love this. It's very sweet. Like it says in the summary, it's a warm and fluffy fantasy featuring a single dad who is trying to raise his elven daughter. Yeah, I love that. Like it's just a nice little palate cleanser. I like to just like check out this. What I was doing is like I'd go and read like the other manga stuff that I'm currently reading and catching up on them. And then after like I read, like some of them can be pretty dark and messed up. So then I would go and I'll read a chapter of this to kind of just cleanse my palate and just kind of reset things, because sometimes manga can just get a little bit too much. Sometimes it can be very dark, sometimes very depressing. I mean, I read mangas of all types, but I usually try to stay away from things with essay just because it's one of those things that I'm not very comfortable reading. But I'll read other stuff that deals with like self-deletion and psychological horror and, you know, depression and drama, as well as, you know, romance and comedy and action and battle shonens and stuff. Again, I read pretty much everything. But it's nice to have something like this to just kind of pick you up after reading something that's a little less lighthearted. So there you go. I'm kind of rambling at this point, but there's My Daughter Was an Unsold Enslaved Elf. It's very, very sweet, very, very heartwarming so far. And I'll leave a link in the description below so you can check it out for yourself. At the time of this recording, there's only 4 chapters that have been translated on the Mangadex website. But if you click on the translators, Kappa Beast, there's a link to their website where they are up to, at the time of this recording, they are up to chapter 7 or 8. Can't remember. So yeah, if you want to just go on ahead, you can go to their actual website and read it there. You know what? I'll leave a link to both sites. So you can check it out either on Mangadex or you can check it out from the Kappa Beast website itself. But it's a fantastic series so far. I'm really, really enjoying this. And I think you might as well. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far. And I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again. And I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.